I'm going to startle myself probably more than I startle you. I'll try to behave, okay? Also, in addition to finding materials on the website, I'm going to let you know now that we've got some resources for you, especially when we get to the second section of this, when we get to discussing, that if you would like them, all you need to do is email me. You ready? I'm going to give you the short one. There's a long one. Marlink at californiawritingproject.org. You don't want that one. You want JAYNEM, as in man, moon, whatever you want. JAYNEM at Berkeley.edu. And make sure it's BERKELEY, or it will not find me. And all you have to do is in the header say, I want that stuff. And I'll probably send you 2-3 emails with attachments with strategies and approaches, especially for the second section, because there's some great stuff mentioned in the framework without links for maybe where to find them, and some of them may be new, okay? So, JAYNEM at Berkeley.edu, I want that stuff, or variations thereof. Just, pardon me? .edu. And give me a couple of days to catch up, but it will find you, okay? Okay, you've got papers for the first section of this with writing, and the trustee Aline and I are going to do a blitz with the other sections we're gonna cover. This is gonna feel in some ways, and I apologize in advance, it's going to feel in some sections like a flyby. We'll get some info, dig a little deeper in what maybe you can find in the framework, have you play around with it, then we'll go back out again. So just know you're getting an overview plus, and get online and just start digging in. We're just trying to give you some pointers about where to head with this specific section about effective expression. Deal? Okay, so you may have more questions than not. You can email me those too, or send them to the writers, okay? Okay. So, start moving. Now, there it goes. Okay. See, I am not cool enough for this great technology. The microphone, the whole room. So we're going to focus in on effective expression. And I don't know about you if you caught it in the morning session, if you've looked at the framework already. I love the care that the writers took with the language. I like seeing things like respectful. I want effective expression to be respectful, intellectually challenging, engaging. So even though those are things we're not going to talk about directly, all of this works together. There's great reciprocity among these elements and domains, and it's a little different than what we had before, where it might have been a standard a day and everything was pulled apart. It's one of the most powerful things about where we're moving, but it may be the most challenging for some folks as well. I kind of like it. Okay, so here's a reminder that it all works together. Reading, writing, speaking, and listening, and language are all tools for effective communication across the disciplines. Together, complementarity, reciprocity, supporting each other. And we're going to, again, fly by, I apologize. We're going to look at 4 elements of this. There are more, but these are the ones that are targeted and framed in this section in the framework, in the overview in Chapter 2, and then in the grade level sections. You'll find effective expression and these components in each one of the grade level spans. So far, so good? Okay. So, this writing stuff is kind of different than what we had in the KCCST last 12 years world. You've got some pages there that takes a look at what's new in writing across grade levels. They're already in your stack. Pull out the one that most is closest to where you're teaching or where you're coaching or where you're administrating for the school. Just do a quick read and note for you what are some of the biggest changes in writing and expectations for writing for teachers and for students. Give you a couple of minutes. Ready to chat? Got a few? Okay, let's just hear a few. What's new, or maybe another way to look at it for some of you who are as old as I am? What's re-emphasized again? What's been pulled back? What's looped in with what's new? What did you notice in TK5 for those of you who looked at that one? What's new? Technology. Technology, digital support, writing has changed. Uh-huh. One more? Maybe a return, because sometimes I think over the last 10 years or so, process maybe got lost. I know in some high school classes I worked with, they would get up to a draft and not go any further. Yeah? Because feedback and response and revision is really hard.
So what's your supported opinion?
Yeah.
Written in multiple days, over multiple days. I think that's important.
You mean it's not just for practicing on-demand writing for a test anymore? I'm sorry, that was nasty and I shouldn't go there. But writing is a part of the classroom culture. If you read Standard 10, short, long-term, it's a writing community, yeah? Okay, how about 6-8? Across content areas. Evidence. One more. Maybe not one more.
Text types have adjusted from persuasive to argument, summary to broadly.
You're a plant, because that's where we're headed a little bit next. And if you back up to TK5, really different, because if you're in second grade, you're not just writing letters, right? I mean, you're writing all of these. Narrative, informational, argument, opinion, covering the waterfront. How about 9-12? Just a couple things. Same but more.
In the first one where it says writing arguments, the power wording looking at strengths and limitations of your opponent seems kind of new, and I feel like it adds a lot more dimension to the argument.
Hello. Who's recently been in college? Me? It's a long time ago. It's a long time ago. But the more you move toward college writing, it's that analytical writing, measuring claims, validating claims, strengths, weaknesses, the same thing with evidence, all of the above, yeah? Anything else in 9-12 that popped out at you?
So the piece about when writing narratives that you're setting out a problem situation or possibly.
And significance. I would love to see significance added to all of them. What's the so what? Why are you doing this? I'm glad to see it's back. It's not just for school anymore, which we'll talk about as we go on through this session. Okay. We want to do a little playing around before we get to the discussion element. There's a phrase in chapter 2 that Rindy and I were particularly fond of. The special place of discussion. It's actually a subcategory in chapter 2. And we talked a lot about how important discussion is to all of this connected with effective expression, and probably some of the hardest to plan. And so we're going to dig into that a little bit. Start out with a special place of discussion in the teaching of writing. And if you take a look at all the things that discussion can do if you've planned intentionally, discussion clarifies the writing topic. Yeah? Discussion, which we're going to play with, models the writing genre. if it's the right discussion task, and actually helps the writer interrogate and start thinking about the genre. It anticipates what you're going to write and what you're going to teach the students to write. It strengthens thinking at each stage of the writing process if discussion is sustained. The ones that are a little bit different color blue, we're going to do an activity right now that kind of teases that out a bit. But go back and read those back and forth. And I would say that intentionality, that purposeful nature of what you bring to writing, is something we didn't talk a lot about in depth often in the last 10, 12 years either. It's back. Okay. So why in the world do we have this opinion writing and argument writing? Why is K5 one and 612 is the other? Okay. This is from the work of Pauline Gibbons. Do you know her? Writes a lot for EL, mainstreamed EL in classes, in content area classes, college-going classes. This is her definition, and it's actually something that the framers of the National Common Core drew on. So opinion writing, read through that. Nothing will sound jarring to you at all. You're persuading others, you're taking a position and justifying it. Organizational features, personal statement of position, your opinion. Then you've got arguments and supporting evidence, right? And you've got conclusions and possible recommendations. Now that's for TK5. So what's the difference for 612? Read through that. What's different here? And see if you can get where you stand and maybe one or two reasons. Okay, let us just hear a few, okay? Who agrees that the young'un should be pumped? Okay, first hand up, go. Oh, stop.
As a mom, she just was told leaving the house not to talk to strangers. And what's the, whenever you give a kid an option, oh, do you want the red one or do you want the yellow one? They always go for the later option.
That's true.
So, well, whatever. But either way, she was just told. So she should have had it fresh in her mind. But I have my other hand on the other hand. I'm ready, girls.
Little Red Riding Hood should be punished for talking to strangers because of the conversation that she had with the wolf, we found out where she was going, and that led to a series of events that could have been avoided had she not talked to him in the first place.
Anybody disagree? Go.
Well, I don't think she should be punished because you don't want children to live in perpetual fear of everything that they meet along the way. But maybe talk to about it, but not necessarily punish.
Okay, a little qualification, which those 4 and 5-year-olds do too, by the way, I'm remembering.
I feel like she shouldn't be punished unless she's specifically talking to strangers with the intent to offend or harm them. I think it's on the strangers to not, harm Little Red Riding Hood in the first place. Because I feel
Even though we've got a malevolent wolf?
Well, I was looking at it in a more, hearing everyone else's arguments, I was like, oh, I'm not really focusing on the fairy tale, I'm looking at it from a larger perspective, I guess. But
Go for it.
Isn't the whole story of the punishment, the way the world punishes her for the actions that she takes?
Good point. Good point. Okay, now, we could dig this to death, okay? But here's the point of this, okay? If we had more time, I would have you work in small groups, okay? And start getting your reasons together and ranking them and going strongest to weakness. Just start marshaling evidence, choosing up sides, taking the middle, which some of you are going to do no matter what. Okay, now, then getting together with folks you agree with and actually collaborating on I agree or I disagree. That may take a while. Then, do you know this discussion strategy? Philosophical chairs? It used to be one folks did a lot. And this is one of these things that's coming back. You'll see it actually noted in Chapter 2. Imagine, again, we don't have time because if we did this, we would end and go to lunch, which might be fun, but we can't. Okay, so I would say agree, folks, get and stand on that wall. Disagree, folks, stand over here. Those of you who can't make up your mind or you've got one foot in both camps, get in the middle. And then it's called share your reasons. And after each one, did it confirm you're standing in the right place? Or are you going to move? You can do it around tables. I mean, you can adapt this a million ways. This, for example, is a PDF I've got some support for. If you like this strategy and you want to adjust it for EL, okay, email me. I want that stuff. This will come back to you.
What was that
Yeah.
email one more time?
Jaynem, M as in moon. Jayn, Jayne. I know, my mom had to be different. Jayne, M at berkeley.edu. Okay? So far, so good? This is a great strategy. It's great fun. It's very active. But in the course of writing, that's kind of not the point. Have you already, just in this, started to state a position? Have you already started to marshal examples in support of that position or claim? Have you already started to think of counterarguments, especially if you have to write down what other people are saying or you figure out ways to post them, right? Are you beginning to think of a so what summing up? Some of you already voiced it, just in the way you presented it. Okay. Short point made, discussion supports the genre. And it actually opens up the features of the genre you want the kids to know much more better than starting out with, we're going to write about Red Riding Hood. What do you think? Write a claim. No. This brings it from the inside out, right? Which is what discussion is in this effective expression section. Okay. The Chapter 2 and then the grade level span examples go on to do more with discussion. And Aleen's going to do a blitz here of a couple of different things. There's what's changed in discussion. And I think actually, in a funny way, there's a lot that's changed because it wasn't emphasized in our last iteration of standards. I mean, it was there, you could pull it out, but it wasn't emphasized. And without these discussions, there's an awful lot of academic work that just doesn't get as deep as what it could. So you're going to get some what's new statements. Take a look at what's new for the grade span. And then closely followed behind it, let's get them both out at the same time. Chapter 2 will mention a number of discussion protocols, structures, supports. I've got more of these to send you too, if you want them. That's why, if you haven't heard of this, I've got something to send you, okay? You're going to get 3 pages about what's new, and then you're going to get a back-to-backer explaining some of these discussion structures. Will you take a look first at what's new, then take a look at the back-to-back and just see if there's any of these structures, protocols, that might help you get at what's new, that might help you open up the genre, that might help you deepen academic work. Did that make sense? Okay, what do you note that's completely different in the representation of discussion in this go-round of the Common Core and what's fleshed out in the framework. Anything completely different?
It's more explicit on what they want the outcome to be. Just the elaboration, the responding to questions, and what they're asking of the students, which is something that you don't normally see.
It's not just academic talk. It's academic discussion and talk because it needs to do. There's a lot more purpose, intention, grounding in the language around what we're doing. Yeah? Anything else that you noticed was different or re-emphasized, emphasized in a different way than you remember at any grade level? Yeah?
Not listening respectfully.
Oops, sorry. Which takes a little work, doesn't it? Listening respectfully. I will digress here. I will not name the wonderful school I worked at for many, many years, and I would go back tomorrow. But my high school students, my seniors, could not carry on an academic discussion longer than 5 minutes without falling into name calling. Talk about planning for talking and listening respectfully. We charted how much time it took every day. And about 2 months into the semester, one of the kids in the back he stood up and applauded. And I looked at him, I knew exactly what he was going to say. He said, "We made the entire 90-minute block with this discussion." I said, "Oh, you guys are brilliant. You just need to know how to listen to each other." Anyway, I digress. Lots of planning, right? Any of these structures sound appealing to you?
I like that in the third box, resolving contradictions. I think that's really important because a lot of times I feel like students like assess and they don't really go anywhere with it. And by resolving contradictions, they're learning to one, just listen respectfully, accept certain opinions or ideas from other people, and then come up with things that then try to do.
Resolving contradictions. Actually acknowledging that somebody can have a different opinion. And not just what it looks like on a blog forum, sometimes those public blog forums, which are so mean and nasty. Okay, any discussion activities here that you use that intrigue you? Did you get to it? Yeah.
I would say inside-outside.
Inside-outside circles is a winner? Yeah? Any others that are winners here?
Expert resolve. Expert resolve.
Do you know structured academic controversy? Would you like to know? Email me. Do you know Socratic Seminar? That used to be so popular and so well used and is perfect actually if you're going to discuss a text and then move to writing. That's on the email. If you don't know, email me. Deal? And then the ones mentioned at the bottom, strategic collaborative instruction, argument balance scales, those are also there for you. Obviously, this is going to be something we have to play with again, right? Get our colleagues together. And all the more powerful if you can choose the discussion tool that helps open up the writing, that helps clarify the issue, clarify the text, prepare for how kids are going to produce new knowledge. Too much to think about, too much to think about. It's the fun stuff, though. Okay. So you can see why discussion's an essential element in this chapter, yeah? Yeah?
Is it okay to throw an idea out?
Absolutely.
I teach 7th and 8th grade English, and we're currently doing book clubs with them. And as we were talking among the three of us teachers, we decided that it would be too much for us to grade them individually. So we're doing an inner-outer circle, and the outer circle is using the rubric to score them, but we're emphasizing the skills that they're supposed to be using, not the content that they're talking about. And so we have a skills rubric, and we actually just started using the rubric this week, and one of the teachers emailed me this morning and said it went amazing. So the kids are looking at the rubric, what they're supposed to be doing, and evaluating others. So I can't wait to do it tomorrow.
Another plant. On a second email is a collaborative discussion rubric developed by my partner in crime, who can't be here, which takes the discussion criteria in the framework and turns them into a rubric for teachers and students to use. You want to take a look at it, okay? It draws the language right out. It's well constructed. It'll make sense. You can play with it. Email me. Deal? I want that stuff, okay? And if it doesn't work for you, share it with a colleague, because it's going to work. And try it out together in the same way these guys did. What would be interesting, I'd love an email back how similar they are, okay? And if you want to share yours, I'll send it out on the email too. Okay, so I'm going to play true confessions here. I think presenting has been probably the weakest part of my teaching. I can do plenty of scaffolding and preparing for writing. The presenting, not so much. It's more intentionally targeted, okay? Do we have the presenting one out already? Oh, you're so good. Take a look at this one about what's new. In the framework are recommendations for things you need to think about if you're going to move to presenting. What kind of groups, what kind of planning, what kind of audience consideration, the level of language. You see all these elements coming together? Part of presenting, they've got to write. Yeah? They've got to write to get to the presentation. They've got to discuss to clarify things. It all kind of comes together. Take a look at the what's new, but think about where you could start doing more presenting and what that would take with your kids. Yeah? So let's take maybe about 3-4 minutes just to open that element up in the framework. Is that right? Okay. We've got one crazy person over here, no, I think it's actually very cool, who's most excited about the presenting being added into this section, okay? But she brought up a point. I've got to go back and actually read chapter 2 in the grade level spans because I may have missed it. It may be in there and I'm not sure. What did you add that you said is really important in this?
Really important is the audience participation. So after a student presents their work, usually I cue them to say, the presenter, what did you learn from my presentation? Or the audience is taking notes of the presenter, or the audience providing feedback, what I really liked about your presentation was. There's so many ways to participate, but it's not just presenting, it's also feedback from the audience and having the accurate conversations.
I could be way wrong on this, and I probably am, because if you've taken a look at the 1,300 plus pages, you're going to miss some things. You're going to have to reread, right? But what I remember is audience consideration as in going out, more than I remember audience participation as in coming back. So that would be something to note. You've all nodded your head, it's important. Something to note that's got to be maybe added into the work. Yeah?
But I feel like doing that also promotes engagement in the audience, and it helps the students in the audience be more engaged in what the presenters are.
What? Yeah, go.
Sorry. Part of it, I'm looking at kindergarten, it says provide additional details. So if you don't have the audience feedback,
Exactly.
how do you know to do that? So my little kindergartners, they have to choose 3 audience members that will point. And pointing means highlight the words you use, picture the details you're having done, and then they pick 3 more, what are your questions, and they have to respond to those questions, which allows for providing additional details.
I'm so glad you good teachers are out there with the youngins. One more time, real loud.
That it says for kindergarten that they're to provide additional details, and without the audience feedback, it makes it difficult for them to do that. So my kids have to choose 3 children who notice something about their writing or their storytelling, and then choose 3 more students who have questions about what they have presented, and then they have to respond to those students' questions, which gets them to provide the additional details.
One person, okay? What's what's a kind of presenting you've decided you're going to do? Just because you've now gotten reminded that it's in the works again. If you haven't gotten there, don't worry about it. No? Go.
Like a proposal. So the way I always frame it is like, if you're like working for a company, you have to propose a new idea to the company, how are you going to do that?
Kind of gets at that college and career readiness, right? Yeah.
I've got kids that are super shy and they're not strong readers. So I really like the second grade audio recordings. That's going to kind of help with their confidence, and then they just got that level of support so they can get results together.
I love when folks across our writing project send me links to kindergarten, first, and second grade podcasts. And it does that. It gives them a forum. People respond really well. And it's brilliant, and it's contemporary, and it's current. Yeah? I'll give you one example along with a so what about this. Underpinning the standards, this issue of college and career readiness, is really that issue of significance and so what, okay? There are a lot of folks who were on the original development committee for the Common Core, and a lot of folks who are doing work in the field in California, who are adding on one more. College, career, community readiness. Because writing, effective expression, needs a place. And a lot of times, the first place for kids will be tackling something in the community. I'll give you an example from one of my colleagues. Cajon Valley Middle School, down in the boonies, and not down in the boonies, in San Diego. She would kill me if she had heard me say that. Janet Ilko, I apologize if you watch this video. Okay, so her 7th and 8th grade kids took on community problems. They decided to do, of all things, vaping. Okay, because all these stores around the middle school were selling e-cigarettes. And a lot of middle school kids were participating. And they didn't like it. Okay? So the project was fascinating. They researched the heck out of everything. They wrote up interview questions and interviewed kids and store owners and community folks. They marshaled more data. They looked at research online about vaping. Then they decided, okay, we need to do something about it. They wrote up and developed PSAs, public service announcements for the school and anywhere in the community. They decided we are still not done. They decided on the 2 best PSAs. They went to the El Cajon City Council, and guess what happened? There are new regulations preventing sales to certain age levels of kids, all because a couple of kids said, this is a problem and we don't like it. Okay, that's effective expression to me, and I think that's really the aim of college, career, community readiness. Yeah? Okay, one last flyby. Okay, language conventions. You knew it wasn't going to go away, right? Correctness counts if you're going to put your work public. It counts. It's called How Do We Do It in Context. So we're going to do something a little bit strange, okay? Alina and I, between the two of us, will give you the 3 sheets about language. And then we're also going to start passing out snapshots from the framework, because that's one of the coolest things at the grade level spans, is you actually get teachers talking about what they've done, okay? So take a look at the language, yes. But take a look at the snapshots and see how these elements of effective expression are coming together. What decisions did the teacher decide to make? What elements are foreground, what are background? What's the focus? If you used it with your kids, would you emphasize something different? Just talk about how these things come together. Is that right? Including where language is fitting in, because a lot of them have intensive language support. Is that right? We have everything out there? God, you are good. Also, maybe buddy up with another 2 or 3 and talk about what you're seeing. Because you've got snapshots that are just across the grade level spans, and maybe not your own. This is why I like this phrase even more. I wish I had had my phone out earlier, because I could have just taken pictures, video across the room. The special role of discussion for teachers. Good grief, we don't have enough time to do what you guys just did, do we? Discuss, problem solve, strategize, unpack it, question it, interrogate it. This is really stupid. Oh, this works. Desperately, we need this. Okay, I want to hear just a little bit of what you came up with. Did you see something in a snapshot that is informative to you? You're going to try and follow it. Or something you've got a question about. Or, I really like this, and I really am going to go back to the framework and read the whole thing again. Yeah.
We looked at a kindergarten, a ninth grade, and a fifth grade, and what we noticed across all 3 of them was the real life application of what they were reading about, writing about, and learning about. That they went out and did it.
I'm telling you, I'm going to beat this horse. I love this college career community awareness. It's not just in the 4 walls of a classroom. That really is the original intent of moving these standards out. And for me as a writer, I mean, if writing doesn't go public, if it doesn't bear witness to something, if it doesn't make a difference, if it doesn't move something, can you tell I'm a preacher's kid based on that? Anyway. Yeah.
I was looking at a 5th grade, and it was the expression language with the visual arts, and just how you can, just going back to that integrated work, and then the lesson was really kind of a springboard to get the kids interested in learning more about the history of this particular piece. It was brilliant. It was brilliant.
You want to read these snapshots and vignettes, Jose. You really do. There's some great ones in there where if you take a look at an element, like for me presenting, which was not my strong suit, there are just great ideas in places where you can say, I can't do it that way, but I could do it this way. My kids can't do this, but they could do this. I had a question about where to find more stuff for EL kids, maybe especially older EL kids that are struggling. Some of you may have gotten some, but in the snapshots and vignettes, you will see things and recommendations for dedicated ELD and ELD. Look for those. And it will strike that balance between older kids, smart kids, whose language isn't quite caught up to their smarts. Okay? Any other comments? Yeah.
There are the designated ELD contacts and integrated. It really shows you in the designated what environment and context it's how these elements in expression are being used within certain contexts, like how you teach in a designated environment versus how you teach in an integrated environment. So the snapshots are really helpful in seeing that.
I couldn't agree with you more.
So that's in the grade level, the grade level spans?
Yes, those are in the grade level spans. And then they're for each of the elements you'll hear about today. So there's some for effective expression, and you'll see that they cross. You know, because you're seeing more than effective expression in those snapshots, right? There's a lot of other stuff going on. So I think it's a great place to start once you get a flavor for this. Go crazy. Any other comments for the good of the room? You got it all wired. You got a place to start. Okay, yeah.
I had a 10th grade history snapshot activity, and when we were discussing it, one of the things that we did is looking at what was being done here and how it relates to language. It wasn't clear. When we're looking at it, is it language as far as based on the ELD standards, or is it language based on?
We just had that discussion over this way. Both. Okay. Both. And sometimes you can tell from the snapshot that the language maybe was more the academic language focus and not the functional language focus. So, content language, but not in the ELD standards how language works. So it was more about the content knowledge. Does that make sense? Read across the snapshots and you'll see, because you can't do this all at once. You've got to foreground, background things, right? You've got to foreground, teach, see where your kids got to. Now we've got to do this. If you go away saying, cover all of these in every single assignment, and all the other ones you're going to hear about through the day, I will have destroyed you. So that made sense, right? Yeah.
I have to say one more thing from my perspective. If you look at the language standards where the conventions are located now in the standards, and you compare it to the writing, in writing it says kindergartners are just supposed to dictate, create strings of letters and phonetically spelled words. Language says they have to use prepositions, question words, produce and expand complete sentences, and spell simple words phonetically. Spell simple words phonetically is where it's taught specifically about writing. And I think that we get the message from above that they're supposed to do all that in writing, and I don't see that that is the way it's labeled. Language is not just what you write on a piece of paper, it's what you speak. And
Everything for your kids right now is language development. Well, maybe it is for all kids, but for those little guys, everything absolutely is language development. Okay, I'm going to put you on the hot seat for something, because we were talking about something over in this end. Okay, one way you can divide and conquer about this language stuff is if you figure out what's suggested in these documents for language, take a look at what your kids need to work on, but then take a look at the genre that you want them to write, okay? So your kindergarten kids are going to make an informational booklet together about banana slugs, since we're in the area, okay? What kind of language are you going to need to work on with them so that they can successfully achieve that task? That's the question to ask when you read the ELD standards and it's prepositions, phrases, clauses, what's going to make the piece of writing work? In argument writing, what's going to make the argument work? What's the difference between writing an editorial and writing an analysis of a literature piece? What's going to make the writing work? I'm going to be bad, maybe, and I don't have enough for everybody. No, I might. Okay. I'm going to give you a flyer for an event we're doing for the California Association of Teachers of English. We always do the pre-convention every year, the California Writing Project. The focus is actually going to be on how do you embed language in genre to make it work? How do you celebrate language in these times where dialect and diversity are seen as problems? And lots more, okay? If you would like one, I'm going to pass them around. Come join us. I wish it were cheaper, but come join us anyway. And it is a K-College gathering, okay? So there are breakout sessions by grade level spans. Maybe send me an email, I want more info, so that when we have the session outline, I can get it to you. But that's specifically how we put ELD and the ELA standards together in the language. A lot of that's going to come together on that day. Did that make sense in English, sort of? Okay. Okay. I think we've got one more slide. Yes. There's the long email address, okay? And some of you asked how you find out about the writing project. There's Twitter, Facebook, whatever on this flyer. Take CaliforniaWritingProject.org, Google it, You'll come to our very behind website, but you'll get a flavor for what we do. And email me if you've got questions. And some of you know your local writing project directors. We are here to help. Any last questions? We're about ready to go to lunch.
But not this email address, email you have the one you gave us earlier.
You can do either. They're linked. I just didn't want to have to make you write down jmarlink@californiawritingproject.org. Longest email stem in the universe. But there's too many other CWPs, so. We good?
Thank you.
Cool. Look on the chalkboard for most of these handouts. Email me for additional resources. Go have some lunch. And thank you.